So it's been a minute. Hi everybody, it's Helen. I have had a very insanely busy last few months that have been very tiring, and I'm sorry I haven't been more active. I will be doing a spring favorites overall because I also didn't consume a ton of media since February. Sorry. But I do want to make a separate video today specifically detailing my Eurovision 2023 experience because, in case you can't tell from the thumbnail, I got to go! Many of you know that Eurovision is one of my passions, some might say a hyperfixation, if you will. I first fell in love with the contest in 2014. 2017 is when I would say I became a super fan. I even made a video all the way back in 2017, something titled like The Uninformed American's Guide to Eurovision, something like that. Basically, ever since I discovered that Eurovision was a thing that you could go to as the public, I've wanted to go. And those plans sort of kind of picked up steam after I moved to the UK, and it would have been easier to go somewhere in Europe. So didn't plan on doing Tel Aviv because I was doing my degree. We were planning on Rotterdam 2020 and combine that with a Dutch heritage trip, but that didn't happen for reasons. And then of course we couldn't go in 2021 because that was a very COVID safe year. So we were all set to go for Turin in 2022. We'd booked an Airbnb, and then it coincided with my visa renewal process. And for those of you unfamiliar with the visa situation in the UK, basically if your visa is in the process of being reviewed after you've submitted your application, you're not allowed to leave the country, otherwise you forfeit your application, and I was not willing to risk that. But finally, luck was on our side for unfortunate reasons, because of course Ukraine would have been hosting the competition this year if it weren't for the war, which meant that the UK ended up hosting it. And as it happened, the UK ended up hosting it in the north, in Liverpool, which is about an hour and a half train ride from where I live. Basically, if we were gonna have one chance to go to Eurovision at some point in my life, this was gonna be it. We had to make it this year. So, and in the midst of the bloodbath, we did end up getting tickets to the first semi-final afternoon preview, so the final rehearsal before the live show on Tuesday, May the 9th, and I'll get more into that later. And then of course I was doing coverage for That Eurovision Site. I did not personally have on-site press credentials, but I did help with reporting before the contest, before rehearsals, as well as during the week. So I was occupied that way. But I want to start with logistically how I worked around transport and accommodation, because I had the great convenience basically of, if I wanted to and if my budget allowed, I probably could have commuted to Liverpool every day from my home, and that would have been an hour and a half either way, plus 20 minutes to grab my short commuter train from Leeds to my house. What I ended up actually doing was doing 3 short overnight spurts based on events that I wanted to go to and kind of organizing everything around. So first off, I'll start with Saturday the 6th through Sunday the 7th of May. I specifically wanted to do that weekend because a lot of my Eurovision podcasting friends, both as part of That Eurovision Site and from other sites, decided to plan a podcast meetup on Sunday the 7th, and I really wanted to go to that. So what I ended up doing is Saturday night I ended up staying in Manchester and then going into Liverpool the next day. And the meetup itself was absolutely lovely. I got to meet up with some of my team members before that, which is insane because we all know each other like online and through our Discord and whatnot. But it's just so nice to see everybody in person, because sometimes you feel a little bit lonely even if you've got like your online friends, but you never see them in person. So I got to meet up with them. I got to meet up with my podcasting friends from America. Thanks, Ben, for inviting me, Ben from Eurowhat. And so I got to meet not only, friends that I've, known and online, for a while, but I actually got to see them in person, and I got to meet some other podcasting friends who I really admire. So I got to, it was weird. It was me, 3 of the 12 Points crew, and Ben from What, and I think Ross from ESCN Site, Second Cherry, all of the other things, Jack of all trade. We ended up all going out for lunch after our meetup, which was lovely. Side note, the weather predictions were just absolutely like off, because it was saying like, oh, it's gonna be a bit chilly, and then it ended up being like 70 degrees. So I'm out there in like my very thick snag leggings, snag tights, please sponsor me, carrying around like my winter coat and my jumper and my backpack, and it was warm. It was a good shout then that I, was able to come home on Sunday night and have a bit of a rest and rejig. And it also meant that I wasn't like overpacking for Liverpool, or I didn't have like a bunch of stuff I needed to take with me. So basically I came home Sunday night and had Monday just doing some, press ad hoc as needed, although I think I did spend most of the day kind of recovering from that, because I'll go into this aspect a little bit, and I'll probably make another video about my particular brand of neurodivergence later, once some more concrete things come through. But basically, my parents visited me in April, and it was like full on, like all day, every day for a week, and it really let me know that like I do not have the mental energy to kind of keep that up for a long time. And so instead of trying to commute every single day to Liverpool or to spend a whole week there, I decided to break that into smaller chunks, where I ended up spending, I think, 6 days in total in Liverpool, and then in between those 3 stints I had built-in time at home to recover, which was really important. But even from that first like brief jaunt to Liverpool, because I ended up only spending a few hours there on the Sunday, as soon as you get into the train station, like the signage is there, your volunteers are there. It was a little bit chaotic on Sunday the 7th because the turquoise carpet was taking place right across, and so the main entrance was closed. So it was a little bit finicky to get around. But overall, I had a really nice time that first Sunday, and it made me really excited to get to Liverpool on Tuesday the 9th with my partner to go see a live Eurovision show. Oh my goodness. So we ended up taking the, I want to say like 10:30 train out of, 10 o'clock out of Leeds, and got to Liverpool around 11:30. The show was at 1:30, so we got there. I went and checked into my hostel. My partner had to work the next day, so they went home after the show. So got all that done, and then we like power walked down to the arena. We had our tickets. I had it on my phone, as you do with Ticketmaster. So, I was trying to dress a bit appropriately for like the weather, so I could like de-layer if I needed to. Getting into the venue was fine. We found our seats fine. We actually ended up kind of being close to the entrance. And the show itself, if you get to go to any sort of Eurovision show, I don't know if I'll go to Stockholm next year, but like, do it. It's a party atmosphere. Like the moment you walk in, they're playing like Eurovision hits over the speakers. Everybody's there with flags, there's costumes. And then like as soon as like the show started, I have no words. Yeah. It was good. We did pick up a little bit of merch, and by we I mean my partner. So they got this lanyard, which is not a press lanyard, just so you know. But I did end up wearing it the whole week because I was like feeling great and feeling important. And I was doing press, but not in the press center. And then we got the program, the official program, which was 20 quid. I will say this about the merch and also the food prices, is they were quite high, but that's to be expected for a big event like this. So if you were gonna purchase stuff, you better have your money saved up for it. But it has like little bios of all of the personnel behind the show, the interval acts, the host, the acts, and they have lyrics for everybody, for every act song, and the lyrics are in their national languages. They aren't translated. I think this was a really good thing to have. I'm so glad we have it, and I can like keep it on as we go on through the years. And then this, my partner got the official tote bag for themselves. Oh, and they also got themselves a Eurovision t-shirt, and they've been wearing it a lot. So my partner is not as big of a Euro fan as I am, but when the time comes for like everything to get like all checked up and like the rehearsals and everything, like, then they'll get really into it. So they were fine to come with me. One mistake we did make though, is because we were so concerned with getting down to the venue on time, we forgot to have lunch beforehand, and the line for food was up the wazoo in the venue. So we actually didn't end up having lunch until after the show, closer to 4 p.m. Luckily there was a Pizza Express outside the arena, so that was on us. We probably should have picked something up from Tesco on the way. And we did leave the show during the fake results, and I think that was about 5 minutes early, and it was good because we ended up being able to get out before the big rush where it was stressful. But back to the show itself. So I was in the same room as my wife, Hannah Waddingham, whom I love. I'm gonna specifically save my spring favorites for after Ted Lasso ends because I need to talk about the season as a whole. Brilliant. Alicia Dixon and Yulia Sanina were great. Graham wasn't at this one. But because this was an afternoon rehearsal, the acts, they went on, they performed, they were great, but they didn't stand in the green room, so we had like volunteers come in, like basically masking tape across their chests being like, who are you? But kudos to them because they did their research or had their lines fed to them, because all these bits of course are like pre-rehearsed and whatnot. I have to say, seeing the interval acts live was brilliant. That Rebecca Ferguson and Alyosha duet to Ordinary World, it played so well in the arena. It was incredible, and I was so glad to be able to see it on TV later. And there wasn't much that was done like in screen, like that wasn't on that we couldn't see on the stage or in the background or whatever. That was really, really, really well played. So I thought that was a really amazing, amazing job. Rita Ora, she was fine. Great performance. She had enough dancers, I think, to give 6 to every competitor that was in that semifinal, and that's all I'll say on that. The opening was lovely, and the arena did a great job. They said, we want you to be quiet, like right when the opening starts. That was the one with the little girl and the little boy. And it worked out really well, and it was so cool to see. We were sat, if you're looking directly toward the stage for the back of the arena, we were sat in the upper tier on the left, about 1 block from the stage. So we actually did end up having a really good view. I think we could see just about everything, unless there was something like really happening in the corner of the left side of the stage, but pretty much everybody was out in front. Highlights, we have to talk about Kadia. That was amazing. The arena was there for him. I am so, so glad that he got such a high televote in the grand final, and he did win the first semifinal, which was televote only. I am sad that they didn't win the contest overall. I have my thoughts about whether we need a jury shakeup. I don't think we need to get rid of the juries, but I do think they need expanding, because I think the entire public of the country's opinion being lined up with the opinion of 5 professionals in that country is a bit too much of a difference. I think it would have been close no matter what, but I think Loreen, who did a great performance and was great live and definitely was more of a TV performance than an arena performance, if I'll say that much. I think a lot of the camera work was done, not so much for the audience in the arena, but for the television audience, which fair, it's a television show. But I was a little bit uncomfortable with the margin that she won the jury by, and the kind of leaving behind of other countries. Like Israel finished second in the jury vote in the final, and they were like, that had literally half as many points as Loreen had. I think she should have won the jury, maybe not by that much, but that's just me. But she did a great job, she always does. Side note for like the local drunk lady who was sat next to us was screaming at us about like her, like, what's your favorite act? And like leaning over my partner, which was really uncomfortable. She had a few beers, and she was just like completely like really complaining that like Belgium wasn't in this one, and it's not that hard to do your research ahead of time, and it made me feel so bad for like people who are fans of the contest who actually would have wanted to go to this, and then like people like that got tickets instead. Croatia got a big reaction, which I'm not a fan, but to each their own. That's definitely more of a musical preference in my case. I thought Malta did such a good job, and man, I'm so sad that they finished last in the first semi. I'm really proud of Czechia for what they did. I did bring my Dutch flag for Mia Nicolai, who unfortunately didn't make it through. I am so pleased that they nixed the results announcement, the thing that they were going to do for the semifinals, where they had them all up on stage on risers a la X Factor. I'm so glad that they nixed that as soon as they got the feedback, because that was immediate. Like, the photo leaked, and within an hour they had made a decision to change it back to how they usually do. It was cool to see the stage hands like putting things back and forth, and to see like the floor light up with where things are supposed to go, to see things getting in their place. It was a little bit weird to see the screens on either side of the stage. If you're watching on TV, you don't see them, because the second that they go to a wide shot, the screen comes off, but it comes back on and off. And it was a little bit distracting, because you couldn't really, like, especially if you were sat where we were, where the screen was basically on our left, but what was actually happening was in front of us. We kind of didn't really know where to look with our eyesight. It was funny to see the teleprompter, which we were in full view of. There were a lot of things that were spelt out phonetically, which was real fun, but I think the host did a great job. And so that was the end of our in arena experience, and it was a really good experience. I was so excited. I wish more people in the stands stood up, but like when like Cha 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 came on, like the arena was shouting. I'm 90% sure that they had to put like some sort of like altered mix on during the live broadcast, because you could hear the arena like without a doubt screaming along with it. When it came to the actual results, I don't think that we had any surprises in terms of who made it and who didn't. I think we just had like a few that were sure bets, and then like whoever else made it in. And I feel bad for Latvia in particular. Sorry, Yannick. I know you really wanted them. Sorry, Lewis, as well. Those are my two friends. They did do a really good job, and if I'm being honest, I probably would have subbed them in for Switzerland, but the public did. So yeah, after the show, my partner went back, and I took a little break in my hostel before going and meeting up with my friends Rosie and Lewis to watch the first semifinal in the Eurovillage, which on that night was free. I'm so glad I did. Again, the weather was fantastic. I had like enough layers to kind of keep me cool when it's got a bit dark, but like it just reminded me of Traverse City and going to see movies on the bay during the film festival as like the sun's going down, you've got that sea breeze, and it was just amazing. And it made me so excited to come back on Saturday. I ended up getting like a drink on the night just to hydrate, but again, very expensive. And there was a lot of space around. I could take a long walk if I needed to, and we were ended up to be seated, which was fine. So yeah, great experience in the Eurovillage on Tuesday. Wednesday, I met up with my colleague Rory, and we just recapped the first semifinal and had a lovely chat. And it was, again, it's just the idea of like everybody who like I know from online, being able to actually like talk to them in person was just so lovely. And then I spent the afternoon in Pret chronicling the first rehearsal for the second semifinal. It was fun when you're on public Wi-Fi. I ended up not seeing very much of it because of connectivity issues. It was great. Shout out to Pret, I guess. And your salmon and cream cheese sandwiches, incredible. And then after that I went home. And then I had another couple days to chill, to catch up. And then Saturday, it was time for the grand final, and we took a bus to Liverpool this time because train strikes. We ended up taking a National Express, and I think that was about 3 hours-ish. When we got to Manchester, which is one of the stops, I'm pretty sure they had to call in like a bunch of extra buses because of the train strikes. There was a huge line of people who had booked tickets to go like on the bus to go, and luckily like it was quiet all the way to Manchester, and then Manchester to Liverpool was like the party bus. So yay. We got to Liverpool just fine. We ended up staying in an Airbnb with our friends from the site, and we basically just kind of chilled until it was time to go down to the Eurovillage, because we knew it was going to be a very intense but fun evening. And this is where I do have one major critique, particularly on how the Eurovillage was run on that Saturday. So the Eurovillage on Saturday was ticketed. None of the other days were, so you could kind of come and go as you pleased. But it was ticketed, and also like once you left, you couldn't get back in. So both my partner and I are neurodivergent. to the point where if things do get too intense, we need some place to step away from, some place possibly quiet. And so I inquired, because I hadn't seen any sort of quiet areas when I was there on Tuesday, and I'm very disappointed with the Ticket Quarter's response, because one, they didn't have any sort of quiet area, and they weren't going to make any exceptions for people with disabilities who maybe needed to leave and come back during the show, which is not great. I understand that there's security concerns, but not everybody can be out there for the 4-hour show, much less the 10 hours that day that the Eurovillage was open. And basically they told me, like, yeah, I'll be busy in the evening, but like, you know, you can come earlier in the day. And it's like, well, I don't want to be there for 10 hours, and that's the point. And they were quite flippant with me in that way. So I would advise for any sort of Eurovillage, anything in future events, to maybe be mindful of those things and like have a separate space, especially because during the actual show, during the results, I'll admit I was very attached to the idea of Finland winning. I love that song. I think it would have meant something really wonderful to the contest, and not to disrespect Loreen, I think she did a fine job. I think that the juries probably went with her a bit too much, maybe because she was a name, whatever the case may be. I'm not saying that anything was rigged or anything. I'm just saying, like, you know, the public can vote one way, the juries can, you know, vote for the based on the criteria that the very vague criteria that the EBU give them. And I'm not saying that Loreen is not deserving of this win. I want to like combat all of the stands before then, because when it became kind of clear that Finland was not going to do as well with the jury as we wanted them to, and frankly as they deserved to, let's be honest, I really started having a panic attack. I didn't know what to do. It was very crowded, and so I had to get taken off to the side, and I just started crying, and I just needed to take a walk. And I can't explain it. Like, there's no logical like stimulus for me having a panic attack. Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes you're in situations where you think you're going to be fine, and then you're not fine. And, you know, I can, you know, control, but I wanted to be in a very communal space watching this show with a bunch of people who loved it, and it was great, and it was so much fun. And there was this energy in the Eurovillage, especially when the rest of the Eurovillage wasn't thrilled either when Finland weren't totting up the points. And so I had to go take a walk, and yeah, I had a panic attack, and I was not happy when those final televotes came in for Loreen. People who say that it's disrespectful to not be happy when your fave doesn't win, like, you are allowed to feel normal feelings. Karya was upset that he didn't win, but he came to terms with it. Like, I don't know, like, just please stop. And then I talked about having a panic attack on Twitter. You know, that's mistake number one. And then all of the people who like just were clowning on me, I know that not all of Loreen's fans or, you know, fans of Sweden and the Eurovision are like this. I know that it is a very vocal like minority of people who are toxic in any fandom. I used to be a directioner. So on top of that, and having a very late night, I don't think we went to sleep until about 3 a.m. because we were discussing everything related to the contest. And then like just to see people really clowning on me for something like that, it really took a lot of enjoyment out of it for me. And it did make me less enthusiastic about possibly following the contest next year. Now, I have had therapy sessions since then. I've definitely talked about this with my partner. I've talked about this with my family. So I've come back down to earth, as you will. You know, I'm sad that Finland didn't win. It would have been great to go to Helsinki. But, you know, I accept the result. I do. But it was not fun to have people legit online making fun of my mental illness. And so what I don't want my lasting memory of the contest to be of that. What I do want it to be of is some of these clips, which I'll put in here, and I don't know if they'll get taken down. I'll have to take them out due to copyright, but here they are.
Hello? Game over, bitch!
I will take the joy of wearing the Union Jack on my shoulder, wearing this throughout the week, like chanting along to Edgar Allan Poe, who were robbed in the televote, by the way, jumping and singing around and seeing everybody rise up as soon as Cha 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 was about to come on, and like jumping up and down to Queen of the Kings, and I wrote a song, and you know, these gorgeous, gorgeous interval acts and everything, and it was such a great show, and I had such a great time, and I'm so grateful that I was able to go, and those are the memories that I want to take from that. But I do think for next year, one, wherever the Eurovillage is, I think it to me needs to be more inclusive of neurodivergent people like myself. We need to reform the juries. I would say bring the juries back for the semis and expand them out. 10 to 15 people, varying genres, or even do like what, you know, Spain and a few other countries are doing in their national finals and have a demoscopic jury, or maybe make the split like 60-40 in favor of the televote. I don't know. Like, it's more than just my fave didn't win this year, or that like the jury fave won over the televote fave. It is more than that, because, you know, we have had jury issues for a while and they do need to be fixed. And we tried one way this year and it didn't work. So that's a conversation that needs to keep happening. And 2 or 3 or whatever, finally, I just need people to be more understanding. I do not have to like Sweden and Eurovision. I think they are perfectly fine. They do well. They do what they do well. It's just not for me, and I'm tired of getting clowned on because I'm not like Sweden's #1 stan. I'll cheer for the UK because I live here, and I think Mae Muller did a great job. These artists are gonna go on to all have like huge careers, and I cannot wait for tour dates to be announced. There's more than one way to win Eurovision. So all that being said, the final like journey home for the day on Sunday was a little bit stressful because our National Express bus got delayed by an hour and a half, but we did eventually make it home. So in conclusion, my first experience on the ground with Eurovision was a net positive for me. I don't know if this is something that I would be able to afford year on year. That's another reason why I'm kind of a little bit sad that Sweden's hosting it, because I know it's gonna be expensive next year. I'm so proud of all of these artists and their entries and how well they did and how they were embraced by the public, and you know, I have 37 new favorite songs to listen to. The UK's attitude toward the contest and Liverpool in general, how much they embraced it. Eurovision was everywhere in Liverpool. You had Sam Ryder on like TikTok billboards, the like flashing screens in the city squares were like giving good luck messages to all the artists. There was Eurovision merch everywhere. There were pubs with flags up. It was so lovely to see this community embrace Eurovision in a country that has had a really negative opinion of it. I don't know where this energy is going to carry over to next year, especially given the result that we got. That's one of my biggest fears. It has been, because the enthusiasm is so great, which is great, but we need to be able to keep that enthusiasm year on year over here. And it was such a great tribute to Ukraine. I think one of the reasons that Liverpool was chosen, according to a lot of sources, is because they were really willing to commit to it being a Ukrainian contest, but hosted in the UK. And you could see that throughout the city with the art installations, with the languages spoken during the hosting of the contest, with the areas in the Euro Village, with the birds everywhere. It was such a lovely Eurovision to go to, and you know, my friends who have been to Eurovision's past have had nothing but good things to say about Liverpool hosting this year. So I think the bar has been set, and I have to say I agree. I think, you know, with my quibble with Ticket Quarter and the Euro Village aside, I think this was very well run, and this should be the standard, I think, going forward. It was, the slogan was United by Music, and I definitely feel like everybody was, including me. And it was so nice to see a lot of my online friends in person, because I don't have a lot of friends outside work that I see regularly in person, and so it was so nice to have everybody in one space, and I'm really gonna value that. because I know it doesn't happen very often. Here's to probably Stockholm 2024. We'll see. But Eurovision 2024 for sure. We'll welcome Luxembourg back. Thank you. That was my Liverpool experience. I tried to keep this in chronological order, but forgive me for going on some tangents here and there. I'm just a girl who loves Eurovision and got to go and experience it with my partner and my friends, and it was great. It was so great, and I hope that this sort of energy continues. Speaking of continuing, like I said, I want to collate my March, April, May faves into one Spring Faves video that will hopefully be out soon, and I also want to make a separate video about an experience that I did in March, April that I cannot wait to tell you about, but I'm not going to give you any hints here, but I'm very excited. So I've got those two coming. Hopefully I'll film them soon. I'm not going to make any guarantees about release, but definitely at some point over the summer you'll see those. So thanks for sticking by me while I've had a very, very busy March, April, May, and haven't had the energy to commit to doing things like this. It means a lot. It really does. With that said, follow me on my socials, HelenMarie95 on Twitter. If Twitter survives in Europe past August, we'll see. You can follow my Linktree. You can just search Helen Groothuis, Groothuis on Linktree. You'll probably be able to find me. And I also have it linked on my website, which is www.helen-groothuis.com. You can find me on Instagram at HelenMarie_95. You can find me on my Facebook page, which is linked below. You can follow me on Storygraph, Letterboxed, and Serializd. I'm starting to update those a bit more now that I'm consuming a bit more content, though everything will be all linked in the description. We are on a little bit of a hiatus now with That Eurovision Site with the contest over and not as much news coming out. There is still news, which we are still covering, but at the moment we're just all trying to recover from the intensity that is Eurovision 2023. So there is still content and you can check that out. Again, all of the links will be in the description, but pretty much on any social media platform at That Euro Site and That Euro Podcast for the podcast form. I was just recently part of our overall Eurovision recap where I go a little bit more specific into my opinions on the show itself and how it played out. So if you want my thoughts on that, you can go over there. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to keep living awesome lives, and I will see you all very soon. Bye.